Hi, Vanessa. Welcome to Story of Me, where we are talking to all
Hi.
women and asking them about their personal journey as
Mm-hmm.
inspiration because your story
Yeah.
matters. And we're very excited to have you here. And if I may say
You.
so, since I have known you for the last few years, you're one of the
Yes.
funkiest, fittest, and bravest women I know. So I'm very glad that you are here, especially
Thank you.
talking to us. So the
Thanks for
first
having.
thing that I want to ask you is that you started this journey pretty young, and by the age
Yep.
of say 22, 23, you had established your first fitness center, a gym,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that's very young to be starting an entrepreneurial journey, and that too in this sector. But I also understand that you have this gym especially for the women,
Yep.
right?
I do.
And you have two outlets now.
Yeah. We started off with one outlet. I set up the first outlet in 2012.
Yeah.
That was my very first outlet. So recently this year we set up our second outlet, January this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was this personal journey like? Like what started you on, and how has this
Mm.
personal journey been for you?
It's been very very fulfilling. I've seen since I've started the business, I've gotten to meet many women from
Yeah.
different walks of life.
Yeah.
We've got teachers, we've got moms, we've got students,
Mm-hmm.
basically every single age group between
Mm.
15 all the way to like 50 plus. So I've met so many people. I've learned so much. Yeah, and I'm very very grateful for that.
Okay. So just walk us through this whole process. Like one day you woke
Yep.
up and you thought you'll have your own gym, or was there a certain series of events which led you to
Yep.
that? Were there any challenges that you had to overcome? How was this journey like?
Initially, I was just doing generic fitness, like conditioning and stuff like that, kickboxing classes. And then I found out about Muay Thai when I went with a friend to watch this tournament. So I was curious about the sport because Muay Thai back then was not that big in Singapore. So I went to Thailand, back and forth for a couple of months. At that point, I was freelancing in fitness instructing. So when I came back, then I realized that, oh, actually, this is something that I really wanted to do because when I trained in Thailand, I was going through a rough period. So martial arts has taught me that self-empowerment is important, and I thought that it would be something that I could you know help teach my clients about, gain strength and mental resilience basically. um, Initially I was renting spaces from various vendors, but it got to a point where I thought, okay, you know what, I'm just going to wing it and set up my own place. So that was when I committed full time into teaching, and I narrowed down to training women only. Like before that I was doing lots of corporate. I was training the army, I was training the police. And after that, I felt, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna narrow down into one category because being a woman, I can pretty much relate to what other women feel, and the stuff that go through our minds and stuff like that. So that's when I really wanted to specify and focus on a niche. Yeah.
Okay. So there's one thing very interesting that I find about Vanly Fitness, that it's not just about the physical aspect. You also talk
Yeah.
about transformations and
Yep.
self-confidence and, how you think. And that brings me back to what we tell ourselves become very important. And that's what we do in our workshops, It's a
Mm,
story we tell ourselves that finally
that's right.
leads us to where we go. So what is
Mm.
your personal take on this?
I think through all the years that I've known myself, people change as we grow up, stuff like that. But I've always been quite a stubborn person. I don't really care what people think about myself, about me. Like for instance, when I was much younger, my family told me, why don't you get a proper job? Why can't you just sign on to a full-time gym and just have a proper full-time job with CPF and stuff like that? But I just felt that it wasn't the right path for me. Something in me told me that, okay, I'm not like the ordinary people. I don't want to go through that default journey whereby, you know, everybody has to adhere to certain things and systems. So that's when I thought, okay, I'm just gonna be fearless, I'm gonna be brave, and I'm gonna carve something out for myself. So that's when I started the gym, right? But throughout the years of operating the gym, definitely there's been challenges, there's been setbacks. But I always tell myself, you know, mental resilience is everything. Not backing down, not giving up, not being bothered about what people think of you, silence the noise basically, is what's gonna help you grit through every single obstacle.
But to do that, should you be
Yeah,
then self-aware and know your strengths and weakness? Because that's where I guess the confidence is coming from. And you say,
yeah,
not listening to someone else. But for
yeah.
that, you need to know, okay, these are my strengths. And regardless of who says what, I know I'm capable of cruising on. So is that something that you knew your strengths? And when you train other women, is that something that
Mhm.
you tell them that know yourself, or how do you go about this?
I think my concept of training people, the core value of my teachings, what Via Left imparts to other people, right? It's essentially telling people to believe in themselves and, you know, trust themselves. Because I think most women, they lack the confidence, they lack the self-esteem. Definitely, this is not something that we were born with, but you know, as we go through things in life, we start to doubt our own abilities. And when women come to me, they transform, you know, not because not because of the training, but because of the fact that, you know, what the gym imparts to them is going to be more than training itself. It's mental resilience. We teach them never to back down. We teach them confidence, right? Self-esteem and all of those stuff. So that to me is very important, because how you speak to yourself really matters. Like you need to know how to silence the noise of the opinions of others, and just know that you can get through this, or you can get through that, or what this person say doesn't really matter. Just filter out the negativity and listen to yourself. That's when you will
Yeah.
really find the strength.
So that's very interesting thing that you said, silence the noise from outside and
Yeah.
listen to yourself. And
Yep.
I think that is like one of the most important things, because you probably already have a voice, but you are not paying attention to it. So yeah, that's an
Yes. Yep.
interesting thing that you said. Um, you have been in police and the army. So how was that like?
That was very interesting. I was training them in the mornings. That was when I was still freelancing. So
So
I
you were
was
training
young, I was
them.
broke. Yeah, I was training them. So I didn't join them, but I came in as an instructor for their morning workouts and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds very good. Vanessa, I think this is like 5 years ago. You and I had this conversation, and you
Yeah.
were telling me that there was a point of time that you were in a very unsafe situation. And in
Yep.
spite of the fact that you were a black belt, so physically
Yep.
you had the tools to fight
Yep.
back, but in your mind, you were not
Mm.
prepared. And that was something that stayed with me for so many years, that we may all have the tools to change,
Yep.
but in our
That's right.
mind we may not be ready. So could you tell me about this shift that happens in your mind, and why is it necessary, what we can do to get that shift?
So just cut the long story short, I was young, and I was nearly sexually assaulted by a friend of mine. Back then, like I told you the other time, I was already well versed in martial arts. I was able to defend myself. You know, I could have, but unfortunately I did not, because I didn't have the confidence to. So I think this is just part and parcel of life, you know, knowing something and being able to apply it, or having the courage to apply it. Yeah, that's when we, like, if I think back upon hindsight, I could have kicked his ass. You know, I could have defended myself. But why did I not? That's because I was probably fearful at that point of time. I was young, I was 14, 15. So growing up as a woman, I always had that at the back of my head. Like, martial arts, it's a good way of self-defense, all right? But if you don't know how to apply it, and you don't have the confidence to apply it when the situation arises, then it's as good as knowing nothing at all. Therefore, I base these values on teaching. It's not just about stuff you know how to do, but having the confidence to be able to apply those necessary tools when the situation arises.
Now, that is something very important, and I think this is
Yeah.
something as a mentor, as a coach, as a therapist, I have seen that someone else can give you all the tools, and you may have learned it, but if you are not willing in your mind or not ready to implement and use it, then probably the application will not come. So probably you need the mental readiness first before you need
the mental shift, the thought process is very important. Fight or flight. Do you know what I mean? It gives you have 3 seconds to decide, you know.
And you wouldn't know at that time how you will react. So you need to be
no, you wouldn't know because your body would be in shock, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think this is an important lesson to be mentally ready beforehand. If be it a small change or a big change, to be able to have the confidence to go through it. So I'm so glad we are having this discussion, because a lot of people, and especially women, they feel they are empowered, but when the situation comes, you know, I hope nothing comes like yours, but even in day-to-day life challenges, maybe they are feeling empowered, but when the time comes, they back off. So
they
you
just
know, to
back off, right?
Yes. So to understand
they just
that
freeze, they don't do anything.
Yes. So I think what you're trying to say is that you need to shift your mind to be able to apply what you know and not be fearful about it, right?
That's right.
That's great. That's great. So could you just tell, you know, everyone listening to you now where Van Lee Fitness is, and if they need to reach you, how do they go about it?
So we have 2 outlets. The main outlet, whereby all our new people and the beginners come through, is our flagship studio. That's at Chinatown. We're along Pagoda Street. Yeah. So you could just Google us, or you could just drop us an email, and we'll give you the details to register. But because of the existing COVID capacity restrictions, everybody's got to sign up at least 2 weeks in advance. That's the bare minimum. So we'll need about 2 weeks notice to get everyone registered and make sure that we're aligned with the protocols.
Okay. So I think, you know, we need this right now to be able to fight, you know, in our mind first, to be resilient and brave. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for being here.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate your opening up and being honest about it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Prionka.